Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Hong Kong once again for the first time in what feels like a good long while. Now, we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before. The last reviews that I did from these guys were back in about 2019, if memory serves me correctly. But when I was in Hong Kong a few weeks ago, I managed to film some out and about videos at their locations there. So you'll see those in a couple of weeks' time once I've edited them together. But definitely cool to return to them and do a kind of sit-down review. It's been quite interesting to see how their beers have progressed as well over the last few years. And this one is a style that I don't think we've covered on the channel from this brewery before. But I know they can do this style pretty well, actually. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to Kwai, Chung, which is a little bit to the northwest of Kowloon, the city across the water from Hong Kong Island. And we're going to have a look then at another beer from Yardley Brothers Brewery. So this particular beer is called Passion Fruit Slap. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and as the name suggests, this one is a passion fruited sour. So yeah, this should be pretty interesting. We tried one of the sour beers at Yardley Brothers when I was there a couple of weeks ago, and it was really nice, in fact. A big shout out in this video to Luke Yardley, who gave me this beer to review on the channel, and also to my good friend Luigi Corraduzza of Luigi Drinks, a bit of a legend of the Hong Kong beer scene, I have to say, and you will see him in the Out and About video that we filmed at the Yardley Brothers tap room in Central, actually. So you can look forward to that in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, let's crack on with this review then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Yardley Brothers Brewing Company. We've done 3 so far, I think. We do have another bottle to have a look at later on, but hopefully we can do a few more beyond that, like I said. But there's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. Just go in there, use the search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and you will find a playlist in there for Hong Kong, and that's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Yardley Brothers Brewing once again. So the Yardley Brothers Brewery was founded by Luke and Duncan Yardley, and these brothers are Scottish and half Scottish, half English, and Luke had previously worked as a parts wholesaler, but ended up staying in Hong Kong after he met a girl, and then he married another girl a little bit later on. But he and Duncan had homebrewed at home, and then they took it up again when Duncan joined Luke in Hong Kong back in 2014. And the main reason that they did that was because they couldn't get the kind of beer that they wanted to drink. But the first brewery they had was on Lamma Island. But in December of 2016, they opened a production brewery on the 5th floor of an industrial building because the rent was cheaper, and this was mainly, you know, the real estate prices in Hong Kong are just ridiculous. So what they actually had to do with this, they couldn't get the tanks and the elevator to take them up to the 5th floor, so 8 people had to push the fermentation tanks up the stairs. They're still in this brewery today, and it can be found in the Kwai Chung area, like I mentioned earlier, at the Wa Tet industrial estate, which is to the northwest of Kowloon. They also have the Beer Shack out on Lamma Island, but this is not the original Beer Shack where they started home brewing. They've got their tap room in Central these days as well, where you'll see an out and about video that I filmed in a couple of weeks' time, and both are really nice locations actually. It's definitely worth going out to Lamma Island and just having a wee walk around. It's a completely different change of pace, different pace of life there compared to central Hong Kong and Kowloon and stuff like that. So I would recommend that if you go and visit. In the last few years, they've been developing a barrel program. I think they started that in 2018, and they've now got a whole host of different barrel varieties, and they're now in the process of moving to a new and larger brewery. I forget the area that is going to be based in. Luke did tell me when I met him, but yeah, they are in the process of moving to a larger brewery, which means they're going to be able to export their beer a lot more widely. But as of April 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 140 different kinds of beer, lots of different styles in there, some really kind of quirky and inventive beers. But one of the beers that they released is one that I think is really interesting that I would love to try one time. This one is called The Beast, and it's a freeze distilled IPA, which is apparently the strongest beer that is produced in Asia. So yeah, I'll need to ask Luke if they're going to produce that at any point in the future again, but it was a little bit of a kind of groundbreaking thing to see that produced here. And that's one of the great things about Yardley Brothers Brewing, is that they are really experimental and willing to try different things. So yeah, these guys have kind of they've kind of developed a lot in the 3 or 4 years since I last reviewed some of their beers, I have to say. They're doing a lot of really good stuff. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Yardley Brothers Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn a bit more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say from the brewery notes, so we can get rid of that, and we can have a little look at the beer itself. So as you can see, this bottle is quite different to the ones that we had a few years ago. Remember, when we reviewed the Caramel Fudge Stout, it was in this bottle that had like a black paint coating on it. So yeah, kind of interesting to see that. So yeah, there you can see the Yardley Brothers Brewery bottle cap. You can see some lovely artwork on this one. Little bit of Batman slapping someone with a passion fruit there, the old school kind of comic style. But yeah, this is really quite nice, this one. It says on the side here, slap, boom, wham, this slap in the face sour is crafted with colossal amounts of fresh fruit and kettle sour for a tart, juicy sensory explosion. Every sip brings a superhero-like slap to the face, and it tells you just a wee bit about it there. But yeah, nice artwork once again, and it tells you on the side here, crafted in Hong Kong. So yeah, that is pretty awesome. But let's get this guy out into the glass, and we'll see what it's all about. Very, very curious to see what we're going to get from this one. A little bit of smoke on the opening there. And yeah, let's just get this guy out. Ooh, this is going to be good. So, yeah, the passion fruit slap. 6.5, is it 6.5? Yeah, 6.5% ABV. A fruited sour from Yardley Brothers Brewery in Hong Kong. So, yeah, to say, this looks pretty nice. It's a little bit darker than I thought it was going to be, I have to say, but you can see there's a wee bit of sediment kind of floating around in this one. But anyway, so before the head disappears in this beer, you can see that it poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of ivory coloured head. It's got quite a few bumpy bubbles in it, this one. I do like how that appears, but that's going to fade away quite soon, I would think. But yeah, the colour of this beer is really quite interesting. So yeah, quite a bit darker than I would have thought, I have to say. I've not had passion fruit juice in a long time, but I remember it being a little bit lighter in colour than this. So remember, when it comes to the colour of your beer, there are quite a few things that can affect this. Mainly, it is the different types of malt that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating, but the length of your wort boil can also play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you'll get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put in will affect that too. And when it comes to sour beers, the fruits can play quite a big role, I have to say. But yeah, it looks pretty nice, this one. A lot of the colour in this one will be coming from the kind of malts that they've used. This beer is incidentally fermented with lactobacillus as well. So yeah, lactobacillus always kind of gives you, I find, a little yellow kind of tint in your beers. But yeah, this one for me, a lot of the colour I think will be coming from the additions of the passion fruit, and you can see that head has just faded away to be a nice kind of thin foamy layer with a ring around the edge of the glass now. But not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this beer. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones just going up toward the bottom of the head. But overall, it does look pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. Should be quite interesting. Oh yeah, you can smell this one. This is a little bit more of a kind of old school sour. A lot of the sour beers that I drink in Scandinavia these days are the you know, the more modern kind of smoothie Nordic type sours. This one just strikes me as being a little bit more kind of old school, but you know, the first thing you're going to get out of this is a big slap of passion fruit. You can definitely say that for sure. But it has that kind of more old school kettle sour type vibe to it actually, which I really do like. But yeah, it smells like a very, very nice beer, this one. Lovely stuff. So, this is quite interesting for me because I often find, I've said this in many reviews before, I find that sour beers are quite, straightforward in terms of their kind of flavour and aroma profiles, but if they're done right, they can be really, really nice beers, and I've got a feeling that that's what's going to happen with this one. The sour beer that we had at the Yardley tap room in Central was just really, really nicely done. So yeah, we'll have a wee look at this one. So for me, the aroma, you're getting a little bit of everything. I'm getting a little bit of a kind of woody, bread crusty backbone. So yeah, lovely little bit of woody, bread crusty backbone in there. For me, it's kind of like a fresh wholemeal brown bread crust that comes out of this beer. So that's the backbone. There's a little touch of woodiness in there, a wee bit of like a Jacob's cream cracker or something like that for sure. I'm getting a wee bit of that, but then there's a lot of, I get a good little bit of white bread out of this one as well. But the funny thing is, you've got that passion fruit adjunct in there, and I've always found that passion fruit has this, I don't even know how to describe it, the smell that you get from passion fruit, it almost has a little bit of a kind of woody or like kind of bark type aroma to it. You're getting a lot of that in this one, which kind of promotes this kind of bready aroma that the beer has. So yeah, there's a lovely little bit of woodiness in there, like I said. Lovely little bit of woodiness. You've got the white bready character there, you've got the passion fruit adjunct, of course. Yeah, there's maybe a teeny little bit of biscuit or something to it as well, but for me the malt base in this was quite simple. A little bit of bread crust, a little bit of wood, bit of cracker, white bread, and then you've got the passion fruit adjunct in there kind of sitting on top of it all. Yeah, it's interesting. On the fruity side of things, or the green component I should say, the hoppy side of the beer, there's a little bit to report with this one. I mean, for me, it has quite a, there's a little touch of earthiness in there, there's a little bit of a herbal character as well, but there's not too much in the way to report on this one. So a little bit of earthy character, a little bit of herbal note, potentially a wee bit of a wet, grassy character coming out of this beer as well. So this is quite interesting from that perspective, I would say. But the thing you have to remember is when you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, it will quite often suppress the green component from the hops, and that's one of the kind of balances you have to have with sour beers as well. A lot of brewers don't like to use hops in sour beers because they feel it takes away from the sour side of it. But back in the old school, if you go to the more old school Belgian type sours, what they do is use older hops that have lost a little bit of their alpha acid potency and things. And they use that so that you get the hoppy kind of flavour but not the kind of big bitterness. So it just depends on, it varies from brewer to brewer what their mentality is when it comes to hopping sour beers. It's always interesting to ask brewers this and see what their take on it is. But yeah, for me, this beer doesn't have too much in the way of like a strong floral character. It is more like a wet sort of grassy thing that's coming out of this one, and I like the little bit of earthy herbal kind of character that's in there too. So I like that about this one. In terms of the fruity notes out of the beer, I get a little bit of an oily peary character to this one, a wee bit of sultana maybe, definitely some kind of dried apricot and stuff. But of course the dominant, when the beer's called passion fruit slap, the dominant part of the fruity character in this beer is the passion fruit. That's just to be expected, it's a bit of a given. But aroma wise, this one is really quite nice actually. In terms of the aroma, generally speaking, like I say, it comes across as a bit more of an old school sour beer, this one, which I have to say I do quite like as well. But for me, it gets a big thumbs up actually. Aroma-wise, this is very, very nice. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just ponder over the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Passion Fruit Slap, a 6.5% passion fruit sour with lactobacillus in it, from Yardley Brothers Brewing Company, currently in Kwai, Chung in Hong Kong at the time of filming, but soon to move to somewhere else within Hong Kong. So yeah, let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, gambe, and thank you again to Luke for providing this beer for me to review. Let's try it. Oh yeah, I'll tell you something, that does have quite a little bit of an impact to it. I do like how this goes together, for sure. Yeah, it has a really nice, from the lactobacillus in the beginning, you just get this really sharp citricy note, and then the beer mellows out. I mean, for me, as I've said many a time on the channel, for me, a good sour beer is one that gives you a really nice transition, and this beer certainly does that. I have to say that about it. So yeah, this is nice actually. It's very easy to drink, but at the same time it has a wee bit more kind of complexity to it. It has a little bit of that old school, yeah, Kettle sour, Belgian-y, German type note to it. It has a little bit of an almost like Gose, or maybe Lichtenhainer type flavour to it, this one, in the background. That's really interesting. But yeah, lovely, lovely beer. That's the main thing. The question you should always ask yourself when you're drinking a beer is, do you like it? And yeah, in this case for me the answer is yes, absolutely. So yeah, let's try and break this down for you a wee bit and describe it a bit more in depth. So the middle third of your palate then, you can feel that the backbone of this beer, it has a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh, brown bready, wholemeal bread crust. That's what I get out of this one. So, for me, the above that kind of bread crusty thing, more toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you start to get some kind of woody notes out of this beer for sure. I think there is quite a little bit of woody character to this one. On top of that, and further back on the palate, you start to get this little bit of a Jacob's cream crackery type note to the beer, which I do quite enjoy as well. So yeah, it's really nice. As I say, it's just really nice how it goes together. That lovely kind of wholemeal brown bready bread crust. Further forward, you get a little bit of a woody character, and then further back, you get a wee bit of a more kind of Jacob's cream crackery note. But above that, there's definitely an element of kind of white bread in this one as well. And I like that. I like these kind of sour beers that can balance a little bit of breadiness and maltiness with the kind of the fruits and the tartness. This is just a really nice beer, this one. For me, this would be, in Europe, this would be a summer beer, but obviously Hong Kong is quite a warm place and kind of quite tropical and stuff, so you can definitely have this as a year-round beer with the temperatures there, no doubt about that. So yeah, I do like this. I do really like how this goes together, this one, actually. The other thing I would add about the middle of the palate in this one is that on top of the bready layer, you do get, in the very dead centre of your palate, you'll get a little bit of this kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing, and maybe a little hint of biscuit. And that obviously is the kind of alcohol of the beer. But yeah, the bready backbone that this beer has really builds a nice bridge with the kind of the natural kind of woodiness and barkiness that I always find you get from passion fruit. Yeah, so that goes together nicely. I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. What I would say about this beer is that it's probably not the most complex one that you're going to get from Yardley Brothers, but it's just really nicely done. You know, and you can't ask for much more than that these days, to be honest with you. But yeah, back third of the palate, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of white bready build up in there. The layers in the back third of the palate are kind of similar to what you're getting in the middle third of your palate. So yeah, you've got a little bit of a bread crusty note in there, but of course the bread crust for me is a little bit drier. I've always said this in reviews that that I find the more bitter and dry flavours come out further back on the palate. The sweeter and kind of juicier flavours and stuff will come out a little bit more further forward on the palate. So yeah, for me, this one, the bread crust has a little bit more dryness to it. Above that, you can feel the cracker is a little bit drier too. Then there's a wee bit of brown bready flavour on that back third of the palate too. So you can feel there's a light, airy bit of brown bread. Then above that, you've got a layer of kind of airy, white bready character to it as well. And then you get the yeasty notes just sitting above all of that too. So yeah, really interesting. Yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah. So on the kind of back third of the palate, you can definitely feel the flavour is taller, and then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together in the middle third of your palate. Above the back third of the palate, the only other thing I would say there is that you do have a little bit more of this kind of farmhousey, yeasty kind of bready character coming out of the beer, which I think is really quite nice as well. So yeah, you get that little bit of a more woody, crackery bread above everything else on the back third of the palate. But I think we've said everything we need to about the malty and yeasty side of the beer so far. Let's go on to the green component and the fruity side of things. So for me, the green component of the hops in this beer, it's really very smooth. Like in the back corners of the palate, there's a wee bit of earthiness in there. You get a little bit of a kind of herbal quality, and then as you push further forward, along the toward the front kind of corners of your palate, you'll feel the herbal character spreads a little bit forward, but you've got a wee bit more of a kind of floral, aromatic sort of thing going on with this beer, which I have to say I can appreciate as well. I really quite like that about this one. But on the around the front curve of the palate, you'll feel there is a little bit of grassiness there, but the fruity side of the beer is quite it's kind of just pushing everything back. So yeah, the passion fruit additions to this one, you can feel that suppressing a little bit of what would be the green component in this beer, but that's a common thing when it comes to these kinds of sour beer. But yeah, the front third of your palate, I think that's everything we need to say about the green component, to be honest with you. But let's have a little look at the front third of your palate and the kind of sour side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of a kind of bready, build up in there, like white bread. And I would say the base of that front third of your palate is a little bit more. You get a little bit of the bread crust, but you've got some smooth white bread in there as well. And I really do like how that pieces together in this beer also. So yeah, little bit of woodiness in there, a little bit of bread crust, smooth white bread above that, and then you have the above that you're getting the kind of fruity notes out of the beer. So from the hops, I think there's a little bit of I'd be curious to know what hop varieties they've used in this actually, but when it comes to the fruity side of things, you can feel there's a little bit of a, at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of sultana-y, white green grapey, dry white green grapey note to it. As you move further forward, it gives you a little bit of an oily pear, and then in the middle of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of apricot and I get quite a little bit of that dried apricot, note, and there's a wee bit, you can feel the lactobacillus in this one giving you a wee bit of a citricy, sharp kind of character just behind the very front tip of the tongue. So again, I quite like how that pieces together in this particular beer. Yeah, it's really interesting how that goes together in this one. I like that about this beer for sure. But yeah, the passion fruit, definitely, you can feel the passion fruit adjunct kind of sits on top of everything in this one, and you can feel that border region between front and middle third of your palate. You get that kind of smooth, almost creamy, like woody, barky, passion fruity flavour, and that lingers into the aftertaste. And again, you get the passion fruity notes just suppressing a wee bit of the kind of green component of this beer. But I really like how this goes together. Actually, this is very, very nice. The one that we tried a beer that was kind of similar in vibe to this in the tap room, but it was a big like 9% thing. It was absolutely lovely. So I would say when it comes to these fruited sours, I think the Yardley brothers know what they're doing. They definitely know what they're doing. And it's Luke who designs a lot of the recipes and changes them and things like this. But he knows what he's doing with the sour beers. Actually, these are very, very good, I have to say. But I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour profile. Let's round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So, for me, I would say that the vibe in this beer for me, it's quite. This one is kind of bottom end of mid-bodied for me, maybe right in the middle of the spectrum. Mid-bodied is also probably fair. It's quite a wet mouthfeel you get out of this one, very clean and slightly oily at the same time, but you do have a little bit of an almost kind of creamy character to this one, which is quite interesting when it's a kettle sour rather than being one of the more modern smoothie sours, if you like. But yeah, it is still very light and drinkable, which is something you would want that in Hong Kong, to be honest with you, with the temperatures there. But yeah, in terms of the IBU count in this beer, I think this one it's probably technically 0 IBUs, but I could see this one being about 10, 15, something like that. But as I always say, take my IBU counts with a pinch of salt. It's my weakest point in beer reviewing. But yeah, I would say there's a little touch of IBU in there from the green component, 10, 15 IBUs, something like that. The malt base, as we said, has a wee bit of dryness to it. There's a little bit of that lovely kind of crackery note and breadiness in there, and a wee touch of sweetness as well. But yeah, the malty character, I think, goes together really well. A little bit of hoppiness, then you've got that smooth, you've got that lovely kind of smooth, just the passion fruity character in this one's really nice. You've got that sharper citricy impact flavour, and then yeah, you've also got a wee bit of pardon me, you've got a few other kind of fruity notes in there as well, like a little bit of mango and pear and stuff like this, just in the aftertaste. But yeah, this is a lovely, lovely beer, this one, and I'm glad that Luke gave me a bottle of this to review. Actually, this was really, really nice. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. And this has been a really nice experience. The other beer that we have as well is one of their kind of more funky sour sort of things, and you'll see that in a few videos time. But yeah, this has been really good to review. So this was the Passion Fruit Slap, a 6.5% passion fruit kettle sour from Yardley Brothers Brewing Company in Kwai, Chung in Hong Kong. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Yardley Brothers Brewing Company as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys once again at some point in the very near future. But until then, Sláinte, Skål, cheers. Make sure you check out Yardley Brothers Brewing Company. Thank you again to Luke for this one, and do make sure you check out my friend Luigi Corraduzza at Luigi Drinks. I'll put, pardon me, the link to his Instagram and Facebook page in the video description below. But until then, Sláinte, Skål, cheers, drink nice beers.